It's a bit less painful in Florida. Gas prices there up about 80 cents from last year, but drivers are still shelling out roughly $11 more every time they pull up to the pump. And Byron Donalds, he is running for governor of Florida. We're now almost 6 months in. How much longer should Americans be willing to pay more, Congressman?
Well, let's be very clear. First and foremost, the president, when he came back into office, was having to unwind one of the largest inflations most Americans have ever seen.
Now, every time this man gives an answer, first and foremost, he starts off with Biden. Every problem is because of Biden. But when you listen to his answer on how are you going to fix it, they're always wrong.
In their entire lifetimes, the Biden
Can I just
administration.
fact check quickly?
So the first thing you do is you lie.
Where we are today in the American economy, wages adjusted for inflation are actually rising in the United States.
Well, if the wages are rising in the United States, are they rising enough to cover the inflation?
But here's where it gets interesting. When you get to the median household income in 1980, it sat around $18,000. Adjusted for inflation, it should be around $71,000. However, it's actually sitting about $83,000. So we've seen about a 20% increase in wages, which you might look at that and go, well, that's pretty good. But here's where it gets interesting. The GDP from 1980 to today per capita has gone up 115%. So if wages would have kept pace with the GDP per capita, the median household income should be sitting around $150,000, which makes a lot more sense with the cost of living. Then if you tie it to productivity, it's gone up 135%. So if we would have tied the wages to productivity, the median household income should be $167,000 or $150,000 if we tie it to GDP or somewhere in the middle. So yes, wages went up 20%, but the GDP and the productivity blew up and the wages weren't reflected. But that 150 mark would solve the cost of living problem. If houses are 400 and rents 2,000, who cares if the median family was making 150? It would all line up.
Listen, I know people do not want to see the higher prices at the pump. Neither do I. But we also have to understand that when it comes to so many aspects of our economy, we've been able to stabilize prices from the major run-ups under the Biden administration. And
we were able to stabilize the pricing. So we raided the national reserves on oil, and the gas still rose up. So you stabilized it much higher than what it was. That's how we started this conversation. He showed you how your state is up 80 cents on gas. So you stabilized it higher.
And what's happening right now is we are trying to stop the Iranians from having a nuclear weapon.
Who's trying to stop them? Trump trying to stop them? You remember when we tried to stop North Korea? Remember how that turned out? He ended up writing love letters.
Let me take you back to Trump 1.0, when the president was trying to defang the nuclear program of another bitter antagonist, North Korea. As with Iran, it all started with maximalist threats. Faced with North Korea's advancing nuclear program, Trump told reporters in 2017 that the country will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. But then Trump switched course, agreeing to meet with Kim in Singapore. After that summit, Trump said of the North Korean leader, "I trust him," and that he had a great personality, that they fell in love through letters. But the diplomacy went nowhere, and within a year, Trump seemingly lost interest. He has little show for his sticks or his carrots, neither a nuclear agreement nor a totally destroyed North Korea. In fact, quite the opposite. North Korea's nuclear program is stronger than ever.
Again, and to be clear, I guess the question is how much longer Americans should be prepared for this to go. But I do want to just make one factual clarification. When the president, recognizing that inflation hit historic highs, 40-year highs during Joe Biden's term, when he handed the reins over to Donald Trump, inflation was at 3%. Right now, it's 3.5%. So, in fact, it's gone up since the president took office. On the issue of affordability, though, if I can ask you, there's new polling from CBS that says Republican policies are doing more harm than good. A CBS YouGov poll shows 55% of voters say Republican policies are hurting their cost of living. Only 24% believe they are helpful. Why do you think Republicans appear to be losing this argument on the topic of affordability?
Why do you, Byron Donalds, think Republicans seem to be losing the argument on affordability. That's the question.
Well, let's be very clear. One, people want to see their prices come down. The reason why President Trump and Republicans won so decisively in 2024 is because Democrats had wrecked the economy when they were in charge.
The problem that I have is that under Joe Biden, for about 6 months, gas was over $4. Only in 1 month, June, was it ever at $5 for just 1 month. So let's do the math. How Trump is doing right now. And the fact that it was just gas is an outstanding numerical error on the half of Byron Donalds. Everything wasn't high, just the gas. Now, Donald Trump started hiking prices way before March of this year, which is what everybody likes to count. But the price has been up on and off over $4 for several months before that. Now, from March to August, and it being at $4 or over.
But people still want to see those prices come down. That's why in Florida, as running to be the state's next governor, we are laser focused on these issues. We want to push insurance costs down 20% in our state by reforming the regulatory side of Florida's insurance market, something that hasn't really occurred since we set it up after Hurricane Andrew. The second thing we want to do is we want to push down property taxes. There's a ballot referendum for voters in our state. Whether it passes or fails, we're going to do a review of all taxes and fees in Florida and find ways to still balance between public safety and essential services with making sure people keep more money in their pocket. That is the strategy for how you deal with affordability.
And what are you going to do about it? Because let me remind you that you have not put forth a single drop of legislation for affordability. And you've been there since 2021.
Understood. And for clarity, the president, of course, said that on day one prices would come down. Orange juice is up 22%, ground beef up nearly 20%, coffee up 33%. On this issue of affordability, though, there is a policy that I think is specific to your expertise and to what's going on in Florida, and that relates to health care. You live in a state where roughly, I think it's 22% of the population is in retirement. But the president's move to end temporary protected status for Haitian immigrants has left a lot of nursing homes, as well as restaurants and others, with a real void in terms of staffing that they need to care for individuals there. This obviously is a significant community that is affected by this. How will you correct that shortage immediately?
We still haven't corrected the farmer shortage, but they're okay with that because they're buying up all the foreclosed on land for the farmers that don't have affordability on workers. So what are you going to do about it right now? I mean, obviously y'all should have planned for this before you decided to end temporary status for all the Haitians that have all these jobs that are going to need to be filled. But if you really look at what they're invested in, they really plan on having slaves. And by slaves, I mean the people that are going to be on the work program out of all these ICE facilities and the planned ones that they have being built. That's what they're working towards. That's the real plan.
Well, first of all, it's how you train staff to come into that workforce. We do have a lot of jobs in our state where there is new training that is needed in order for other parts of our economy in our state to be able to go into some of those high need areas.
Now, his answer was, we need people. We need to train people. So you don't already have them. So how is that answering the question of who's going to fill the jobs?
But number two, let's be very clear. The reason we're in this position is because Joe Biden and the Democrats.
So the guy, if you say that shit one more goddamn time, Joe Biden is no longer your problem. Joe Biden is no longer in office. Y'all been here damn near 2 damn years, and it's only gotten worse.